Hi kids! Welcome to our lesson for today. So remember last time when we said that story, we left the story where the king had said that all of his advisors, including Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego, were supposed to be killed because none of them, they had told him that no one in the world can tell you what your dream was and then also explain to you what your dream means. And then the king had said that all of my advisors, including Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego, need to be killed. So when Daniel heard that him and his friends were about to be killed, he ran quickly and he found the officer who was going to kill them. Now this officer's name was Arioch. So Arioch was the person who was going to kill all of the advisors. And then Daniel asked Arioch, "What happened? Tell me, why does the king want all of us to be killed?" And then Arioch looked at Daniel and said, "Well, the king had a dream, and then he called all of his wise men and advisors together, and then he told them, 'Tell me what my dream was, and then explain the meaning of my dream to me.' But none of the wise men and none of the advisors could do this because this is impossible. Then the king said that all of his advisors should be killed. When Daniel heard this, he went and he asked and he said, 'Please don't kill us today. Don't kill us today. Wait until tomorrow so that I have time to give the king my answer.' So, after Daniel said this, he went and he got all of his friends. He called Shadrach, he called Meshach, he called Abednego, and he called all of them. He called all of them and he gathered them and they all came together.
When Daniel had called his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, he asked them to pray. He told them to pray and ask God to show them what the king's dream meant.
Yes.
He asked God to reveal to them what the dream meant. And so, Daniel that night, he went to sleep and he trusted that God would hear him and he would answer his prayers.
Yes.
So during the night, as Daniel was sleeping, God showed him what the dream meant. God revealed to him the meaning of the king's dream.
Yes.
So Daniel was excited and he woke up and he started singing because God had showed him what the dream meant. So the next morning, Daniel went to find Arioch and he told him, "Wait, do not kill the advisors. I know what the king's dream means. So take me to the king and I will tell him what the dream means."
So Arioch took Daniel to the king, and when they got to the king, Arioch said, "I have found one of the children from Jerusalem, and he says he can tell you what your dream was and what it means." So then the king looked at Daniel and asked, "Can you explain to me what my dream was and then tell me what it means?" But Daniel looked at the king and said, "Your Majesty, there is no one in the entire world who can do what you want. There is no fortune teller or astrologer or wise man who is clever enough to do what you ask. But there is a God in heaven and he is able to do the impossible. He can do all things." So children, from this story, we learn so many things. So first of all, we learn that it is important to pray, and it is also important to pray with others, because remember, Daniel called Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego, and they all came together and they all prayed for God to show them what they needed to know about the dream. Then second of all, we learn that when God decided to save Daniel and his friends, he also saved everyone. He saved the good advisors and he saved the bad advisors. He saved everyone. And finally, we learn that there is a God in heaven and God can do anything, even the things that are impossible. God can do them all. So now it's time for us to sing our song. So everyone stand up and help us sing this song. Okay, kids, we've just learned that when you pray to God and ask Him for something, He can do all things and everything and all impossible things. So now we are gonna sing about how our God is so big, strong, and mighty, and that there's nothing He can't do. So everyone stand up and help us sing this song. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. My God is so big, so strong and so mighty, there's nothing my God cannot do. There's nothing my God cannot do. There's nothing my God cannot do. Yay! Okay, kids, it's time to do our craft. Now, we've just talked about how Daniel gathered all of his friends after he heard that they were all about to be killed. He gathered all of his friends together and he told them, let us pray. Let us pray to God to give me the answer for this dream and what it is. And God did give him the answer, because our God in heaven can do anything and everything. So to remember this story, we are going to make praying hands. And then on top of the praying hands, we're going to write Daniel chapter 2, which is where we find this story where Daniel gathered his friends and they all started to pray, so they find the answer for the dream. Then on the inside of our praying hands, we are going to write, God in heaven can do anything, everything, and all impossible things. So let's get started. To make our praying hands, take a pencil or a color or a pen or something that you can use to write, and place your hand on a paper. So this piece of paper is folded. So it's one long piece of paper that we folded into half. And then we're going to put our hand right at the end. Then we're going to spread our fingers as wide as they can go. Then we are going to draw our hand. So then take your pencil and draw your hand. From the bottom, bring it out to the front. Make sure your hand is all the way at the end so you can draw. Then draw over your finger, connect it to the other one, and keep drawing your finger until you've drawn all 5 fingers. Okay, so once you've drawn all of your fingers, lift it up and you have a praying hand. So now we need to cut this hand out. Now remember, don't cut the folded side. Make sure that side stays connected so that our praying hands can be connected. So cut around the folded side. Make sure you have a side that is still folded. And remember, be careful when using scissors. Okay, there we go. These are our praying hands. I'm just going to erase any pencil mark that I have so that my hands are very stable and clean. Okay, so there we have it. We have our praying hands. And remember, I told you not to cut out the folded side so that when you open your hands, you have 2 hands. And here is where we're going to write who God is, who our God is, and what He will do for us. And on the other side, when we close our hands, they look like we are praying. So we have our praying hands. Next thing I want you to do is I want you to take your pencil or your color, and I need you to write down what our message for today is. So take your pen and your color and then write down Daniel chapter 2. And remember, we're writing this on the outside of our hands. So your hands are closed. And then over here is where we're going to write Daniel chapter 2. Let's write Daniel 2. Daniel chapter 2. And then on the inside of our praying hands, I want you to open up your praying hand and write, our God in heaven can do anything, everything, and all impossible things. So, whenever we look at our praying hands, we know that in Daniel chapter 2, Daniel and his friends came together and prayed. And when they did, our God in heaven can do anything, everything, and all impossible things. So keep your praying hands, and whenever you need something, you just go to God and you pray to Him, and He can do anything and everything and all impossible things. Okay? So this is our craft for today, and that has been our lesson for today. So until next time, when we find out what happens to Daniel and his friends, bye!